SCP-076, also called Able, is not only one of the most powerful SCPs in the agency, but it's also immortal, because if terminated, it will resurrect inside of its coffin every time. SCP-073, on the other hand, does not possess extreme physical abilities, but it can't be harmed, because any damage dealt to it will be reflected onto its attacker. This makes us wonder, what would happen if the two SCPs met? In this video, we try to answer this question. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel with notifications on, so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and we will be exploring more interesting hypothetical scenarios like this one in the future. Before we discuss the interaction between the two SCPs, we need to quickly go over their origins. As some of you may already know, SCP-076 and SCP-073 are based off the biblical characters Cain and Abel, who were the first two sons of Adam and Eve. Cain became a very skilled farmer, and Abel was a shepherd. Both gave the fruits of their labor as offerings to God. However, God preferred the offerings of Abel over those of Cain, which made him jealous. As a result, Cain decided to take his brother's life. When God found out, he condemned Cain to a life of wandering and cursed him, so that wherever he walked, the ground would become barren and prevent him from doing any farming. But Cain feared that in his exile, he could be terminated easily, so the Lord gave him a sign of protection and a promise that if he were eliminated, he would be avenged sevenfold. And we see that this almost perfectly matches SCP-073's description, the fact that he reflects any damage to the attacker, and the fact that he makes all the ground around him barren. As for SCP-076, the immortal sociopath, it's theorized that he became so aggressive as a result of vengeance, and Abel's immortality is also hinted at in the Bible. So we see why an interaction between SCP-076 and 073 would be so interesting. Cain took his brother's life, which made 076 vengeful and aggressive, and Cain can't be damaged in any way. So what exactly would happen if the two SCPs met? Would Abel try to take his revenge on Cain? To begin with, we have to keep in mind that SCP-076 is a sociopath that attacks nearly anyone he sees. Not to mention that when it comes to his brother, he probably craves for vengeance, so it's almost certain that Abel will try to attack his brother if he saw him. And as we know, Cain can't be damaged, and instead reflects all harm towards his attacker. So we would expect for SCP-076 to attack 073 and take his own life in the process. However, Abel is immortal and regenerates inside of his coffin every time. So the most obvious outcome would be an endless loop. SCP-076 attacking 073 on sight, terminating himself, regenerating, and trying to attack once again, but to no avail. But one SCP tale implies that this won't last forever. The tale called "Maybe God Will Forgive You If We Both Beg" begins as expected, with SCP-076 attacking 073 over and over without achieving anything, but after a period of 2 months, Abel becomes calm enough to ask a question. "Why, Cain? Why are you here?" 073 tries to answer, stating that he's come to ask for forgiveness, but before he can finish, Abel once again strikes, terminating himself in the process. This attacking and regenerating process goes on for another 2 months, but Cain does not give up, and even starts to sing to him as Abel regenerates, in an attempt to calm him. This ends up working, and the next time SCP-076 exits the coffin, he does not strike, but instead asks Cain why he has come here, having murdered him and left him alone. In return, 073 says that he was young and jealous, and that he's wise enough to realize his mistake and ask for forgiveness. Abel draws his blade, but does not strike. Instead, 076 lets go of the weapon and hugs his brother. The two then have a short conversation. Cain says that everyone they used to know as children has left to God's garden, and Abel once again expresses how disappointed he is with Cain. SCP-073 apologizes once again, saying he will always be there for his brother, and as the two are hugging and crying, they begin to crumble to dust in the same way Abel does when he is eliminated. A few seconds later, only dust mixed with tears remains. Well, this is a very beautiful artistic representation of the encounter between the two, and it appears consistent with their behavior and abilities, but with one exception, the ending. Why did they both crumble to dust? It is possible that this is connected to one of the things SCP-073 said, that everyone they used to know as children has left for God's garden, referring to the Garden of Eden. And based on this statement, and the fact that SCP-076 crumbles to dust when he is terminated, we can assume that both of them crumbling together means that their curses are being released. 076 is now no longer immortal, having decided to stop attacking everyone he sees, and 073 no longer reflects damage, having apologized for taking his brother's life. This would also imply that after they crumble, they are both possibly returning to the Garden of Eden, where all of their friends are. However, this is just an assumption. In any case, this tale is more artistic than scientific, and it is certainly possible that Abel never calms down and keeps trying to eliminate Cain for eternity, and in this case, SCP-073 would just have to accept this and walk away. But there is one last thing the Foundation can try, if it wants to truly calm down SCP-076. Oblivious is an SCP tale where a researcher assumes that SCP-076 has become so aggressive as a result of vengeance and requests that Abel is given amnestics, hoping they will make 076 forget the fact he was terminated by his brother, and as a result calm him down. It is also requested that SCP-076's containment chamber is made to resemble his residence prior to his original death, in order to make his surroundings as authentic as possible. The proposition is accepted, amnestics are administered, and SCP-076 actually forgets what his brother did to him. This was a great outcome, because 076 was no longer an aggressive monster, and nearly wanted to go grazing. SCP-076 even began to prepare sacrifices to God as it used to before. However, the outcome wasn't exactly perfect, because Abel began asking about his brother, wondering where he had been. Generic answers such as saying that Cain went to travel were given, but this wasn't enough, and Abel became more and more persistent and even threatened some Foundation employees once, demanding to know the truth. Finally, SCP-076 escaped and met with 073. There were no conflicts between the two at first, and Cain often apologized to 076, though at first, Abel did not comprehend what the apology was for. However, with time, pieces of details began to cross SCP-076's mind, which he pieced together through listening to conversations between staff. He learned that Cain is a sinner who took his younger brother's life and needs to be punished eternally. But despite of this knowledge, Abel decided not to think about this. He liked his life right now, and as for his murder and the pain he suffered, he had already forgotten about it anyways. He did not remember, and Cain didn't blame himself anymore, and this was the best for both of them. The two then decided to live together in the same containment facility. However, a few years later, it was noticed that SCP-076 was aging at the same speed as an ordinary human, and was estimated to expire a few years later. And indeed, at some point in the 22nd century, Abel expired and remained unalive for over 10 years without resurrecting in his coffin. As such, SCP-076 is considered to be neutralized. As we see, both this SCP tale and the previous one end with at least one of the creatures permanently expiring, but in this case, it's only SCP-076. Perhaps a good way to look at this would be to consider the previous outcome the natural one, both being released from their curse after they repent for their respectable sins, and the second outcome as an unnatural result due to the SCP Foundation's intervention using amnestics. SCP-076 is no longer immortal, because he no longer wants to attack everyone he sees, but SCP-073 hasn't received genuine forgiveness from his brother, because of the amnestics, and as such isn't released from his curse. This is bad news for Cain, because he is left to wander alone, without being able to do any farming. But when it comes to Abel, unnatural as administering amnestics may be, SCP-076 being permanently eliminated sounds good, considering the fact that Abel is usually an immortal, uncontrollable monster. So what do you think? Would SCP-076 eventually calm down if it were to meet 073, or would Abel keep trying to revenge his brother for eternity? And if 076 doesn't calm down, should we administer amnestics as a last resort? Let us know in the comments below. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to see more interesting SCP theory videos.